It's still G.I. June, and today we are taking an in-depth look at Lady Jaye, the covert ops specialist of the G.I. Joe classified series, and we'll be comparing her to her vintage figure from 1985. Hey everyone, welcome back to Toy Habits, and today we are taking a body part by body part look at Lady Jaye, her plethora of accessories, and we will be doing a similarities and differences comparison with her vintage figure from 1985, and spoiler alert, there are not a lot of differences between the two figures. All right, so let's first take a look at Lady Jaye's box, and Lady Jaye comes in the G.I. Joe Classified Series window display, and I must say they packed a lot of accessories in with Lady Jaye. It almost feels like they have crowded her in with accessories, but this is what the G.I. Joe Classified line should be, accessories galore. And let's take a closer look at her box art. She is on her communication device, and you get a little glimpse into some of the detail and some of the art for her spear that she has on her shoulder. And if you turn the box around to the side, you kind of get an action shot that shows her camera device or that comms device that's attached to her backpack, and she has a really intense look on her face, like she is gearing up to go somewhere. Looking at the side of the box, you can see that Lady Jaye is a level 3 in covert ops, the use of arrow weapons, infiltration, and she is a level 4 in disguise, which makes sense because she is a covert ops specialist, and it looks like she can give Zartan and Firefly a run for their money. Taking a look at the back of the box, it's the standard G.I. Joe classified poster display, and what I like to do with the back of the box is see where these figures are in this work of art that they have here. And here you have Lady Jaye. It looks like she is off doing her covert ops thing with her communications device on her shoulder as well as her spear, and it looks like she is going somewhere. All right, so like with all the classified figures I review, I'm going to take this figure body part by body part, so let's take a look at her head sculpt. And her head sculpt is one of the plainer head sculpts that I've seen so far in the classified series, although her eyes are painted very well, her eyebrows are done up very nicely, and her lips are also painted very well too. She kind of has a little bit of a smirk on her face, I would say, and her hair sculpt is actually looking very cool. They styled it really well with the head sculpt, with giving her a bunch of layers in her hair. And to my surprise, I saw her come packed with a hat that has hair attached to it. And typically I save the accessory reveals for later, but as I was trying to fit this on her head and I struggled with it a bit, I discovered that her hair actually comes clean off, and you can actually place the hat on her head like so. And I think this gives Lady Jaye that classic vintage look and feel that really complements this figure really nicely. And if you take the hat off, you can actually see that there are some moldings here that actually keep the hat from falling off. So if you look inside the hat, there are some matching ports in there that just plug into her hair and her head, and there she is. She looks gorgeous. All right, now let's take a look at her upper torso, and her upper torso is very packed with a lot of straps and a lot of strap detail. Her collar is sculpted very nicely. It kind of flares up like the classic vintage figure, and I can't actually tell if she's wearing a white shirt here or if this is meant to be flesh colored, but they didn't really color match that very well if it's supposed to be flesh colored, but I'm going to go with she's wearing a shirt underneath that shirt. If you turn the figure around, you can get a closer look at the strap detail. Now, I was really confused because there was a hole in this strap here, and I wasn't really sure if there was an accessory that plugged in there, so I searched my accessories and nothing seemed to fit, but it seems like what happens here is that you move the strap over if it's loose, and it just lines up with the hole on her back, and the backpack just sits right in. But looking at the detail here, You do get to see some really nice buckle detail where they've joined all the straps together to plug into her back right there. And something else I want to mention here, just have you take a look at, is just the varying textures in her clothes that you can see here. And you can see that there is some texture here on the side, which may signify that it's just a different type of armor or different piece of protective gear, which is not present on the small of her back here. It just looks like regular clothes, and if you turn it around to the other side, you still have that same texture that you have on the right side. They also gave Lady Jaye some definition in her abdominal area with respect to where her clothing lines are, which actually makes the figure look really, really nice. And taking a closer look at her arm detail, they're actually getting really great at sculpting arms that look pretty realistic with the muscle detail, and the clothing detail that they have on her arms is really, really nice. You'll notice that her sleeves are rolled up and there's a button that comes up from her cuff that secures her cuff from falling down her arm, which I thought was a very nice detail because I have that on my shirts today. If you look around to her other arm, you actually see that on the other side, and you also see her insignia there in blue and white on her shoulder. I also thought the gloves look really nice, and if you look at the knuckle detail on the gloves, you can really see how much detail they kind of poured into a very tiny piece, and it looks like she's actually wearing the glove, just the way it lays on her hands and the way that they sculpted her fingers, and also the cuff on the glove fits really nice on her arm. Taking a closer look at her belt detail, now the belt detail is very well done. They did a great job creating realistic buckles and fasteners here. You can see her comm device that is secured to her belt, and you can also see just the fine detail that they have on these belts. It looks like it's a little bit textured, and it has holes where you would possibly cinch up your belt or make it tighter, or just have more holes to carry more stuff. There is also a place to hold her knife, which we will get to in a little bit, and there is a satchel on the back of her belt for carrying various covert OPSI related things. All right, looking at her leg sculpt detail, I really love what they did with the texture here, with the varying degree of color and just feel that they have to the pants. But one thing that you'll notice is if you start to articulate the legs, it does get a little weird because this piece of pant does not connect to this thigh here. So you kind of get a weird look with her pants if you start articulating and moving the legs. But I think it's okay because they make the pants look really, really engaging, and they give the pants a lot more depth. There's also some pouches on the side here, as well as some knee armor that they gave her, which has a little bit of sculpting detail, which makes it look really, really nice. So the back of her pants look really realistic, as if you were to tuck your pants into your boots, you would kind of get this folding over effect that you have when your pants are stuffed into a boot. And I love that they kind of put some, looks like they put some strap detail on the back where her knee meets her lower calf. And I do like the lines that they have on the pants here, but I guess if you look closer, you can kind of see, it has the same articulation issue where the lines don't meet up once you start fiddling with her legs. So it's just something to pay attention to. All right, and last thing we'll look at, and if you've seen my reviews before, I dig these shoes and boots that they have for these figures. They look so realistic. You can see the tread on the bottom of her feet as well as the shoelace detail, and her boots are really well done. It looks like there is some armor in the front of her boots, and there is some straps that carry around to the back. And it looks like a really, really nice boots that she's got on today. Now, Lady Jaye comes packed with a ton of accessories, so let's take a look at each and every one of them. Now, we took a look at the hat in the first segment with her head sculpt, but let's get a closer detailed look at her hat. It's got stitching, it has the G.I. Joe classified star on the front of it, and it really looks like a real hat, the way that the plastic is sculpted around her head and the way that her hair kind of forms to the hat. I think it looks really, really, really nice. And she also comes with a very small knife that can fit in her accessory belt, which I will show you in a sec. But the handle detail is pretty cool and looks like they've put a little bit of angles to the blade instead of just making it a blunt blade, which is nice. All right, let's take a look at this gun. Now, I was puzzled as to why there was a hole in this gun, but looking at photos, it looks like you can construct this gun to replicate her vintage style weapon, which we will look at in a sec. But all you do is you put this, feed the spear through, and you can put this attachment here, which I think is a bomb or a grenade that you can just plug in to the front like so, and it looks like it recreates her vintage style weapon, you know, that long gray weapon that she came with from 1985. And if you look at the sculpting detail on the gun, it's very intricate, and I think it just makes a great looking piece when it's all put together. Lady Jaye also comes with arrowheads for her spear, so let's take a look at the detail here. And I love the way that they've designed these arrowheads. They have a lot of great angles and a lot of depth and dimension for a part that's really, really tiny. And the way that you plug these in is the same way that you plugged in that little grenade attachment to her gun, and it just gives a really nice look to the spear when it's all put together. And finally, let's take a look at this backpack. Now, this backpack is pretty cool. They have a little like sleeping pack that looks like it's sculpted into the back here. There's also a pouch. There's really a ton of detail that they put in this bag, and there you can see that there is a place on the side to put her spear, and you also have the comms device or the recording device that you can either put up or put down, which I thought was a great feature. Sometimes you might want it up, sometimes you might want it down. And what I actually really love about this is if you turn it around, there are places to store her weapons. So I think that's a fantastic idea for a big hunk of plastic that goes on her back that you actually can't open. So the way that you store stuff in here is you can store one arrowhead, and if you take the bomb attachment off, you can also store that in here as well. I think it's a very cool design and a very nice surprise that I came across when I was opening this figure. And here is Lady Jaye all geared up. I did put her hat back on her head because I just think she looks way better there, and she looks amazing holding her gun that's all constructed to look like the vintage style figure. Here is where the knife plugs into her belt right there, and if you turn around to look at the back of her backpack, you can see that her spear you can store on the side of her backpack, and there is her comms device. So I think she just looks like an amazing figure, and they did a great job with all of the accessories for Lady Jaye. And now comparing her to her vintage figure, there are a ton of similarities and nods that the G.I. Joe Classified Series Lady Jaye has to the vintage Lady Jaye that came out in 1985. So first of all, the way that the collar detail and the collar flares out is one of the similarities. There's also, if you can see closely, there are the patch insignia that Lady Jaye has on her arm here, as well as on her arm in the Classified series, and just the way that the webbing and belt detail go around her chest and also her belt that she has around her waist. Some other obvious similarities that you'll see are the hat, and instead of just a little plain silver logo here, they slapped a G.I. Joe Classified star on her hat. Her gloves are very similar, and just the overall presentation of this figure is a really nice rendition of Lady Jaye and gives her a more updated look and really pays good homage to the classic Lady Jaye figure. And taking a look at the accessories now, I love that they replicated the way that her gun, the way it's constructed on the Classified series, looks to be very similar to the spray gun that she was packed with in 1985. So I love that they recreated that for her. One of the differences in these figures is that she does not come with a camcorder anymore, and I think all of the tech that is packed into her backpack here is in this black comms device. So she does have a recorder, but it's not the classic camcorder style recorder from the 80s. Now, one other thing that I was looking at between these two figures are where her knife might be on the vintage figure, and the classified figure has the knife packed into her pouch on the left hand side, but as I was fiddling around with Lady Jaye, I did notice that they do have a silver knife that's packed into her boot on the right side of her leg. So there you have the vintage comparison to the classified comparison, and I think they did a fantastic job. Well, that's a wrap, and let us know what you think of Lady Jaye. Are you as impressed with the figure as I am? Let us know in the comments below, and if you made it this far, please hit the subscribe button to get alerted to new reviews we post on the channel, and thanks as always for tuning into Toy Habits.